Hello, and welcome back to the Void Century podcast. Ed and Adam here today to bring you chapter 985 of One Piece, entitled The New Onigashima Project. Just a note for our listeners too, I'm currently on vacation, so I apologize for any adjustment in the normal audio quality. Without any further ado, Ed, would you like to bring us into the chapter?
Yeah, so we start off in Onigashima at the secret rear entrance of Kaido's castle, and the Nine Red Scabbards are met by Kanjuro, and he's like, I've been expecting you guys. I knew that you'd be so tenacious and persistent, so it was impossible that you wouldn't show up. He's got an army of ink clones, or just like drawings that he's made. I don't know if they're necessarily clones. And he's also got some beast pirates with him, and they are getting ready to battle the scabbards that are there. Kanjuro comments on Izo's return, and the scabbards talk about how the ink clones can't be clones because the scabbards still have their heads. Kanjuro talks about how he had Momo captured, but Momo found a knife and escaped, or tried to escape, and then Kanjuro found him and beat him almost to death. He believes that it had to have been Odin's blood that kept him alive. He then lets the scabbards know that Momonosuke is about to get executed inside by Kaido. All the while, Inu is making some conversation with Neko randomly in this entire situation, talking about how his gun hand is pretty neat. Kanjuro says that his plan right now is just to waste the scabbard's time so that Momonosuke can get executed and end the Kazuki line. Kiku then dons this like badass, well, first off, she just wears the helmet. She already had the armor on, but she just has this badass Kabuto armor on, like samurai armor, traditional samurai armor. It looks so cool, and immediately she goes and attacks Kanjuro. And the rest of the scabbards kind of follow suit and engage with the other beast pirates and ink clones. Kiku strikes at Kanjuro, who is deftly blocking with his giant ink blade, or brush blade. And they seem pretty evenly matched so far. And then we see Nekomamushi talking about how Inu has a really interesting leg, and Inu's actually probably got the idea from Neko. He put a sword at the stub of his leg that got cut off, and he's kind of walking on it Shiki style, and he's calling it the two-sword style. And Neko's impressed. He's like, not bad. We then move inside the castle, and Kaido starts his speech, and it's being broadcasted via a video denden mushi, which is pretty badass. Gotta say, Wano has some excellent technology. We then pan into the attic, where Yamato and Luffy are talking together, and Yamato tells Luffy that he wants to sail on Luffy's ship and join Luffy just like Odin did with Roger and Whitebeard. Yamato talks about knowing Ace and how he planned on sailing with him, but it didn't work out. Luffy tells Yamato that he can't be Odin, and Yamato's like, well, if I can't be Odin, maybe you're more Odin than me, you can be Odin. And Luffy's just confused. How does that even work? How can I be more Odin than you? That doesn't even make any sense. So then Yamato shows Luffy his shackles and basically explains that he tried to go to sea at age 8, and so Kaido confined Yamato with exploding prisoner cuffs, and that's the reason why Yamato couldn't sail with Ace. Basically, if Yamato leaves, the cuffs will explode and Yamato will be seriously injured or die. Luffy tells Yamato that he will beat Kaido even with or without his help. Yamato informs Luffy that he also wants to defeat Kaido as well, and just because his father abused and beat him as a child. So Luffy begins to remove Yamato's cuffs, but they get caught by the commotion at the concert hall down below.
So we see from the video Denden Mushi the image of Kaido being projected, and he's discussing the world government dissolving the Shichibukai system, and he said the world government, they wouldn't dissolve the warlord system unless that they had some other big weapon in place. So they're super confident right now, and the world government's growing arrogant. We have decided to join forces with another Yonko crew, and in doing so, they're also going to find and acquire the ancient weapon. In other words, Big Mom pops in, and we see that Big Mom has Zeus back, and we also see all the new homies she just created at the Pleasure Hall, including Napoleon and Prometheus beside her. Everybody, including all the Beast Pirates, are just all shook at Big Mom on the scene. We also see that Big Mom is introduced in a giant 2-page spread with her Wano name, Olin the Oiron, with a bounty of 4.388 billion. In doing so, Jinbei and Robin notice that Zeus is with Big Mom, and Nami and Carrot have been thrown at Big Mom's feet. Upon Big Mom arriving, Kaido's like, "Oh, what took you long enough, you old hag?" And Big Mom's like, "Oh, Kaido, I'm still here on time. Don't be such a stick in the mud." And in unison, Kaido and Big Mom both announce that they are going to claim the One Piece and that they are going to acquire the ancient weapons to bring fear to humanity. And everybody starts cheering. The beast pirates start going crazy, and you see Orochi. He's like, "Hey, Kaido, what are you talking about? This isn't like something we've talked before, haha." And then then Kaido declares that he's going to get the One Piece, and we see Luffy and Yamato staring from the attic, and Luffy's like, "No, I'm gonna get the One Piece." So then Kaido proceeds with an ultimatum, and he said, "Followers of Orochi, you need to choose. Wano is very defended, given, its unknown location, its closed borders, being surrounded by waterfalls. It's a perfect fortress. The pirates or the navy aren't going to be able to get into Wano. And if we expand the country with more weapons, we're going to be an unstoppable fighting force. We're going to transform this into a lawless land, a pirate paradise, if you will." And with this announcement, Orochi shook, and he's like, "Kaido, you got to understand, Wano and the Flower Capital, it's my territory. Who made you all these weapons in the first place?" And at that moment, Kaido takes King's sword and lops off Orochi's head in front of the beast pirates and all of Orochi's men. We see Orochi's head dissected from his body. His body falls in front of Kaido, who's holding the sword. Fuku Rokuju is going crazy. Big Mom is laughing. We see a close-up of Orochi's head. He's got the shaded eyes, and it seems that he's pretty angry because we see like some onomatopoeia for like sounds in the background. Kaido proceeds to state, and he hits the crucifix that Momo's on. He goes, "The Kozuki or the Kurizumi, it doesn't matter to me. Whoever, rules this country doesn't matter, but followers of Orochi, you have 5 seconds to choose." Luffy, looking out of the attic, recognizes Momo and calls for him. Yamato kind of tries to cover Luffy's mouth, and they just burst out of the attic. All of the beast pirates and all of the samurai in the concert hall right now are like, "Oh my god, Shogun Orochi is dead. Why would Kaido do this? They've been allies." And we see the Oniwa Banshu. They just look shook, and Kaido is like, "You have 5 seconds to choose. Fight us and die, or join us." Kaido basically states this country is going to be a pirate empire incoming for the World War, the Pirate War, the Throne Wars, if you will, that are going to occur tonight. At Onigashima, we'll be moving it to the Flower Capital. We see a panel with blood dripping off of a sword, which looks like Kiku's sword, and there's a pool of blood on the ground. We also see Kiku is crying, covered in her Kabuto armor, superimposed by a panel of Momo just being solemn and beat up, chained to this cross. And Kaido then declares that this country is now going to be called New Onigashima, and he wants to install Yamato as the shogun of this new country. In that moment, Yamato falls from the ceiling, and he's like, "You shitty old man, not even for a second." Luffy's like, hey, you got to show me the way. They're going to kill Momo. I'm going to rescue him. And we see the rest of the beast pirates start calling for the Flying Six, and that's where the chapter ends. We are on break next week. Ed, what did you think about the chapter?
Good chapter, so much revealed. I'm really excited for Kanjuro and Kiku's battle. I think that they seem to be evenly matched, but hopefully Kiku's just stronger. Yeah, and then Yamato wanting to join the Straw Hat crew, or at least for a little bit. Really cool chapter.
I think that scene with Kiku kind of like explaining her sword is really cool. Kiku basically stated that the cuts you receive from this blade in the world of the living will follow you to the world of the damned. And of course, Kiku's epithet is like Kiku of the fleeting snow, and Kiku's like, "Oh, these wounds will remain on you much like the winter snow in springtime." So it's pretty cool. It's a very like Japanesey kind of poetic epithet and technique. But upon hearing that, I was thinking that maybe it's possible that Kiku has a cursed blade. Maybe it utilizes the soul of its wielder to impart damage to the soul of its victim.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It has some sort of ability, and usually swords with abilities tend to be cursed that we've seen so far. So yeah, I think that it's very plausible and likely that it is a cursed blade, and maybe we'll learn more about that as this battle continues.
I would imagine all the scabbards have at least Owazamono grade swords, so they definitely have named swords. I would imagine named swords have a higher probability of being cursed blades, and I think it's really fitting that the nine red scabbards are actually allied with the Straw Hats, who themselves have a swordsman that utilizes soul powers in his technique. I also noticed that there wasn't really none of the scabbards in their fight used hockey, because I was really curious to see where if Kiku could use hockey, because it could be a situation similar to Enma where the blade itself manipulates the hockey of the user. So maybe while Kiku's utilizing her sword, she can't necessarily utilize her hockey.
Is Enma also cursed?
No, not a cursed blade. I believe it's just like a really strong and powerful blade that takes a lot of willpower to use, because if you don't have the hockey to control the blade, it's going to sap all your hockey from you until you're like a husk. So it might be cursed, but I don't think it's been distinctly stated that it itself is a cursed blade.
Yeah, it might not be cursed, it just might require that strong willpower, like you said. So I'd say that those are different. I also noticed that Kiku's blade is not completely black, so I'm not sure if she knows how to put hockey into her blade. You have to imagine that all of the scabbards know how to do that, though. But maybe she hasn't
Yeah,
done it enough because she's time skipped 20 years, so she didn't have enough to, or no, yeah, she time skipped, right?
yeah, Kiku
Yeah.
time skipped.
So she's time skipped 20 years, so she didn't have enough time to build it up so that it became a black blade. But who knows? Maybe it's possible during the war in Wano we might get some more black blades forming.
I think so basically what happened is, so for the number of years that Odin was actually on his journey with Whitebeard and the Roger pirates, the scabbards that stayed home are the ones that took the money from Yasuie and the ones that wanted to build themselves up to be learned and knowledgeable and to improve their swordsmanship and their techniques. So I would be really amazed if Kiku, who was on the island that whole time waiting for Odin to return, didn't go ahead and at least train with hockey, because you have people like Kanjuro and you have people like Kinemon and other really top fighters of the scabbards that would have been training with them at the time. And some of them, especially Kinemon and Kanjuro, have been shown to use armament hockey with their blades. So she would have been in an environment really where she could have learned armament hockey. So I would be surprised if she didn't know how to use it. I'm more interested in how her hockey interacts with her sword, because hockey's like willpower and soul power, they're like all intertwined, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So moving on, I also paid a lot of attention this chapter to Momo injuring Kanjuro, and one of the things I wanted to point out is, so we know that Kanjuro uses his left hand to draw poorly, and he's right hand dominant. So when he draws with his right hand, he makes his good paintings, which we haven't really seen too much of, except for these clones and the swan and the arrow tech. But Momo actually injured his right hand. I think that's why Oda took time to actually show us the panel with the band-aid on his hand. I'd like to imagine that injury itself has kind of like debuffed Kanjuro. I would like to think that his current clones, like the samurai that he made riding on the horses, the headless samurai, I'd like to think that the reason they're headless is because they're unfinished. So maybe Momo attacked him while he was drawing them up.
Yeah, I think that it might be possible. Also, that his hand being injured might like put him at a disadvantage when fighting Kiku just a little bit because it's his dominant hand, of course. I know that Kanjuro seems to use both hands when he's wielding his giant brush katana thing, but either way, it's his dominant hand, and it might impact his ability to fight.
Oh yeah, I would totally agree with you. He definitely wouldn't be at full capacity even with an injured, like just the discomfort of having an injured hand, not necessarily like the physical injuries to like muscles and ligaments and things like that. Just being uncomfortable with it wouldn't allow you to fight at full fighting power. So yeah, I totally agree with you. However, I'm not of the mindset right now that Kiku killed Kanjuro. I'd like to think he just made another clone of himself. I think that he's got more of a role to play now that we know Orochi is, struck down or dead, or he's got to make this decision because he's like the only member of Orochi's forces that wasn't physically present in the concert hall at Onigashima. So he doesn't really know what's going on. He's still under the guise that he's working for Orochi. So I'd like to think that he's not the Kurozumi haven't been wiped out yet.
Definitely not. I don't know. I don't think that Kiku defeated Kanjuro, even if it's an ink clone or not. I'm not sure, but they just clashed. Really, we haven't really seen that battle yet, so we don't know how that will unfold yet. But yeah, Kanjuro is probably going to be blindsided that Kaido may have slain his master Orochi. So it will be interesting to see how he reacts to that. Like maybe they defeat Kanjuro, they get to the main hall in Onigashima where the execution is happening, and yeah, maybe Kanjuro survives the fight, just badly injured, and comes back and notices that, oh, it looks like Kaido betrayed us after all, and now I'm just helping Kaido by accident instead of wanting to help my own clan and feel betrayed. And I don't know. There's a lot of open-ended things that can still happen with Kanjuro.
I totally agree with you. But an interesting thought with all this coming together is like Wano's the land of backstabbing. So I'd imagine Kanjuro would go ahead and just go along with the plan. But at some moment, there's like a critical mass for the amount of dissent that could actually be held in the Beast Pirates. And it's going to hit that point. And I think that at least some faction of the Beast Pirates are going to rebel against Kaido. Furthermore, the Beast Pirates are going to have like a rift and growing dissent with Big Mom once Pero Sparrow arrives. And he tries to talk her out of it by talking crap about the Beast Pirates in front of them.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
So there's just like a lot of instability. But going back to Kanjuro and his clones, do you think his clones would be at a disadvantage without having like fully formed heads? You know that normal warriors, they have to use like the sights and the sounds of battle in order to be able to fight proficiently. I don't know if they're clones in the true sense that they're autonomous or that Kanjuro creates them and then he has to puppeteer them. What we've seen about like Ryonosuke is at least when Kanjuro created these things, he commanded them, but then they kind of worked autonomously and completed the task on their own, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely think that they're autonomous and they don't need Conjure to like control them like a puppeteer. I think that just a basic command will be enough. I'm not sure if being headless will be a disadvantage because like the head doesn't really provide that much in combat. I mean, other than like seeing and smelling and hearing, all that stuff. It doesn't really provide much of an edge in combat. It's only a weakness, really, if anything. So I don't know if that will actually impede their ability. Maybe they don't need to see. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I get you. Before we move on, I just really wanted to say that I really liked how Oda drew Kiku's Kabuto armor. I feel like Kiku's character design without the armor is very effeminate and ladylike. However, when Kiku wears the Kabuto armor, she really does turn into like a demon. And it's just something about the contrast between those light tears on her dark Kabuto armor with the blood dripping off the sword that was just, it was really nice to look at.
Yeah, excellent art. I wanted to bring up something about the Kaido basically giving an ultimatum to any of Orochi's followers saying, I'm in control now, so you can either decide to join me or I'm gonna kill you. How many, like, who's gonna agree to join? Like, will Fuku no Rokuju join?
Fuku
Yeah, Fuku
Rokuju.
Rokuju join the Beast Pirates now? Because he seemed pretty loyal to Orochi, but on the other hand, he also kind of was supposed to be loyal to the Kozuki clans and just switched when the power structure shifted over to the Kurozumi clan. So yeah, I'm really curious what's going to happen with him and other people that were under Orochi.
I think they really don't have a choice right now. I think they're going to join Kaido. It's been shown that Fuku Rokuju really doesn't like have any morals or like a spine really. He's more like a mercenary. He's just looking out for himself, not necessarily like what's right. So I think he's going to join Kaido, but I think ultimately he's going to see how Kaido is basically going to destroy the country of Wano. At least for the culture and the people that live there, everything's going to be just torn away. So I think that's just going to be another faction of growing dissent within the Beast Pirate.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely will be, but also, I mean, I guess let's just skip ahead to Orochi's death. So I think neither of us believe that Orochi is going to die, or has been killed right now. Like, I think that he's shocked, but due to the nature of his devil fruit, I don't think he's dead. Yeah.
I don't really think he's going to be like quote unquote off screened. He's going to have a fight. There's so many people that have beef with Orochi. For him just to die like that, like even killing Kaido is not going to get revenge for the country of Wano.
Right, exactly. It doesn't feel like, from a storytelling perspective or like an audience of a storyteller, like it does not feel satisfying that the way that he just got killed right now. And I don't think it's good storytelling. So I think that he's gonna like for those reasons I think he's gonna still stay alive. But yeah, let's just talk about some of the nature of some of like let's talk about the nature of his devil fruit powers. So we know that he's got the snake fruit, model eight-headed snake.
It's Orochi.
Right. I'm just talking the English. The English translation is snake fruit model eight-headed snake, and I'm not like super familiar with the Japanese mythology of Orochi or Orochimaru, but at least in like Western and ancient Greek mythology, we have the Hydra, which whenever one head is cut off, another two appear. So I'm wondering if potentially he has that type of ability or not.
I would imagine he does up to a certain extent. I thought what was very interesting that I kind of made a point of when we were doing the read through is that Orochi's head was like on the ground and he's still making sound. I think he's incapacitated. In the Greek mythology, at least the feats of the trials of Hercules, when he cut off the head of the Hydra and two more growing, the only way to counteract that was to cauterize the wound so that more heads couldn't grow. So maybe it'll be something similar. Well, they'll take torches or like oil, maybe. But it just doesn't feel satisfying for Kaido to kill Orochi. Believe me, I love the backstab, but I don't think he's dead.
Yeah, I don't think he's dead either.
It seems the heads are kind of like similar to Big Mom's homies almost, at least the main ones, where it seems like each of the head incorporates like a certain trait of like his personality.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, so we know that he has eight heads, right? Like we've seen his different heads. They have like red eyes, which again, that's part of like the Japanese folklore of Orochimaru, where it has red eyes as well. I'm also wondering if maybe like it's not like a Hydra and he just needs all of his heads to be cut off for him to actually die, or he needs to be stabbed in the torso, something like that. There's like so many different ways that his power can work out. We just don't know the rules of it yet. I do wonder if you kind of brought this up already, but I do wonder if the different heads have their own personalities. Because like when we saw him transform into his, I guess, half human form, we see that the different heads all look a little different, but there is one main head that looks like Orochi. So I'm wondering if only that head has like Orochi's main consciousness, or if all the different heads have their own consciousness and their own ambitions and desires and all of that.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. I think that's kind of the case, where I don't think it's only like a style difference so that we could tell like the different heads apart. I think that kind of like the trope with like the giant with three heads that like argues amongst itself, I'd like to imagine they all have like separate personalities. And I'd like to think that Orochi, like, whereas they do, like, listen to and respect Orochi, it's almost like Big Mom's homies, like, as the cannonballs, where they all had those different personalities, and you had some of them that would, like, the sleepy cannonball that fell asleep and fell in the water, or, like, the angry one that, like, smashed into the other cannonballs. I think it has a possibility to hinder Orochi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Another interesting thing I wanted to note that I did note in the read through, but I just realized some ramifications behind it, is Kaido didn't use his club to take out Orochi. He actually used King's sword. Now we know that at least in the story of Hercules, and I would imagine with the Orochi as well, cutting off a head causes others to grow. If you bludgeon it to death, it's dead. So I think that might be a subtle hint to the fact that Orochi is still alive. The fact that his head was sliced off instead of being crushed to death.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of want to talk about Big Mom now. So we saw Big Mom's return, and she's got her like army of homies again, which honestly, it looks so cool to me, like the way that Oda did it, really bringing in the traditional Japanese style and kind of folklore into the whole Big Mom homie thing. She animated just random things that she found along. And then also she captured Nami, Carrot, and Zeus. And Zeus is like black in the manga panel. I'm not sure what color he'll be like when it's actually colored in, but he's black. He looks like he has like X's in his eyes, I think, and yeah, he looks beat up. So Zeus is not on Big Mom's good side. I don't know what happens to homies that disobey Big Mom. I didn't even know that was possible. So I'm really kind of concerned for Zeus's safety because I want him to stay with Nami because Zeus is great.
I think that Zeus's black color could be an allusion to two things. So we remember that the homies that were part of Big Mom's own soul that did her bidding, that took the souls from the inhabitants of Whole Cake Island, they were black in color. So maybe that's denoting that Big Mom has poured more of her own soul into Zeus. Or it could be that Nami, prior to losing Zeus, was feeding Zeus her black lightning balls to empower him.
Gotcha.
So he could be charged either way with soul or with lightning. Either or could lead to two different possibilities.
Yeah, I didn't consider either of those, and I like both of those ideas.
Thanks, bro. Another thing I want to talk about Big Mom besides that panel being amazing is specifically with like the old umbrella and like the old sandals. Like those are typical Japanese yokai. So they're like typical Japanese demons. I think it's pretty fitting that Big Mom is like the queen of the ghosts, at least in the sake of Wano and New Onigashima. So Kaido and Big Mom are like the king and queen of the monsters.
Yeah, I mean Kaido is also like Onigashima is like Oni means demon, so it's just like the land of demons and Kaido rules it and Big Mom is kind of the queen almost. Like I know that they're not like in a relationship, but they're allied and it's kind of like I think they see each other as equals. I'm not sure exactly if they actually really genuinely want to ally or if they have backstabbing in mind because yeah, I guess we can move on to a different section now because it's kind of leading into it, but there can only be
Only one person could be Pirate King.
yeah, exactly. So like let's say in like a perfect world they or like in a perfect world for them they're able to find the One Piece together. What happens next? Like only one can be Pirate King. Like will their alliance be like no I'm Pirate King, no I'm Pirate King, and then they fight or will do they have a plan where they're like no I'm actually going to backstab you?
Well, we just saw Kaido kill Orochi, so obviously he doesn't care about alliances. We saw with Apu, Hawkins, and Kid that there's always issues with pirate alliances. The only alliance we haven't seen an issue with completely is Luffy and Law, and even then, you had Shinobu talking trash to Law about Beppo, Sachi, and Penguin selling out the rebellion. So I think it just shows that pretty much every pirate alliance that doesn't involve Luffy is trash and it's going to dissolve in a very violent way.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. Like I would say that Whitebeard and Roger maybe they weren't like outright allied, but they were like very friendly. Also, like let's say like Shanks and Whitebeard or Shanks and Roger's crew, like they would be like allied, I'd say, or at least on friendly terms.
I agree, but we know that Kaido and Big Mom, especially being on the crew of Roxy Zebek, with maybe Whitebeard being the outlier, they're not. Kaido and Big Mom are very chaotic pirates.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, those ally, or it's going to end in bloodshed. Hello, we saw Big Mom, oh yeah, we're going to ally with the Vinsmokes. Haha, just kidding. We're going to kill you at your own son's wedding.
Right, yeah, that's true. So both Big Mom and Kaido have demonstrated that alliances mean squat to them. So I don't know. I don't know if this is an alliance to last, regardless of what happens in Wano.
I honestly don't think it's an alliance to last. You can tell that they're, like we've talked about before, their crews are like polar opposites. They don't really have the same mentality. Sparrow, of course, also being the first son of the Big Mom Pirates. His specific personality, he thinks he runs the whole thing. And we know that Sparrow really thinks that the Beast Pirates are unrefined animals and he doesn't want to work with them.
Yeah. And I don't blame him because he's kind of right. And Big Mom, her whole thing is family and just like absorbing different cultures, whereas Kaido's is more like power and absorbing different powerful pirates. into his crew. So that's kind of like their like how they've approached their own kingdoms, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and I find it very interesting that they're like, okay, so the only way that we could really find the One Piece is by leveraging the ancient weapons. And we saw Caribou earlier on Wano in the prison, and we know that Caribou overheard Poseidon telling Robin that Shirahoshi is Poseidon. Or King Neptune telling Robin that Shirahoshi is Poseidon.
Yeah, so imagine, okay, they just announced that, like, Kaido and Big Mom just announced that they want to find all the ancient weapons. Imagine them finding out that the ancient weapon is actually a fishman. Like, how would they react to that? And how would they also control her? I mean, I guess that Big Mom has history with the fishman, so she kind of knows like how to push their buttons, but maybe she could threaten King Neptune or something and say like if you don't listen to me, I will kill your father. That sort of thing. I'm not sure, but it'd just be interesting to see how they would react to it.
Oh yeah, totally. But we also know that the world government's probably going to mobilize to kill or capture Shirahoshi as well after the reverie. We know that Im-sama did something to Vivi, and we know that based on the actions of Im, that Shirahoshi has a target on her.
Does Im Sama or the world government or members of
The
or
Gorosei.
the Gorosei, do they know that Shirahoshi is Poseidon?
We don't know. All we know is that when Im-sama had the wanted posters of Blackbeard, Luffy, Vivi, and Shirahoshi, Shirahoshi was one of the ones that was torn up or had the dagger through it. So Im-sama is aware that Shirahoshi exists. Whether we know specifically that he knows that Shirahoshi is Poseidon is another thing. However, the theory is that Im-sama is like super old and he's been around for thousands of years before, the Void Century with the Kingdom of D. I'm sure he would definitely know the story of Joy Boy and Poseidon, and he would be well aware that Poseidon is a mermaid.
Yeah. I think that it's very, very possible that Im Sama would know all of it. But we don't know as an audience whether or not he knows. So that's that. Next, let's talk about Yamato. So we learned that Yamato is 28, and that means that he was born the same year as Momo. So the parallels just keep going on and on between the two of these characters.
Yeah, I'm still of the mindset that the whole reason Kaido couldn't kill Momo when he was dangling him over the side of Odin Castle was the fact that that Momo reminded Kaido of Yamato.
Yeah, that would make so much sense because they're both the same age. So that means that Kaido is just like a recent father. Maybe Kaido has some like a bit of a soft spot. Not sure.
I think he does for kids. I think Kaido is like the big gruff guy that like just goes to jello like around kids, but I think Kaido is also, he's very stern, like especially with the way he taught Yamato, either you agree with me or you get beat until you agree with me.
Yeah, and that's a very like Asian way of raising children. Like I'm Asian and I was beat as a kid sometimes if I didn't listen or do things. So that's just kind of like an Asian way of raising children, kind of traditionally. I think that it's changing nowadays and it's not as bad for kids as it used to be. I know it still happens, and it happens in the States as well, don't get me wrong. But yeah, so I think that I don't know. Maybe Oda's just trying to portray like maybe you should consider not beating your kids when you're raising them.
Yeah, I mean, the way Oda paints Kaido in this story is that Kaido's like a real stern father, but we've never, besides like cuddling up to Black Maria for 5 seconds, like we've never seen like an affectionate or like an amorous side of Kaido. We've seen drunk Kaido and we've seen pissed Kaido. We haven't really seen anything
Well,
else.
we do know that Kaido was like had a relationship with Big Mom at one point as well.
Yes, I totally understand, and we do know that Kaido also owes Big Mom a favor. We don't know for what, we don't know why, we just know it's there. And Big Mom also gave us a pretty big hint to like the true nature of Kaido, because she still did refer to Kaido as that thing. So either it could be disrespect, or maybe she knows a little bit more of the true nature of what he actually is, because they have that history on the Rocks
Yeah.
crew. So I gotta say it. Do you think Yamato is going to be the next Straw Hat? I know I know the way Oda's painting it, with Yamato knowing Ace and Yamato wanting to be like Odin, I think that Oda really wants us to believe that Yamato is a potential for the next Straw Hat. I see it. I would love to see it. I just don't know if I'm 100% convinced.
Yeah, that's kind of always the fun of this, like these things, is trying to figure out what's going to happen ahead of time and predicting it. I'm not sure either, but I do love the parallels with Odin, and I do like the fact or the idea that Yamato would be able to sail with the next Pirate King just like his idol Odin. So I want it to happen. Will it happen? I'm not sure.
I want to say one of the things I loved about this chapter too was I got like a whole schoolyard vibe between Luffy and Yamato arguing over who gets to be Odin. It's like, no, you're not cool enough or strong enough to be Odin. I'm gonna be Odin, and he's like, no, you're rubber. You can't be Odin. I'm gonna be Odin. It was very cool for me, and I thought it was funny. I would love to see the parallels with Yamato, or at least a member from Wano, to become like a cabin boy or like an equal on the crew, much like Odin was on the Whitebeard Pirates and the Roger Pirates.
Yeah. I think what's going to happen next with Yamato is we end with some of the Beast Pirates calling for the Toby Roppo. So I think that one of the Flying Six will actually end up clashing with Yamato. I'm not sure if it's going to be one of the two that we just saw, page one or Ulti. I'm not sure if it's going to be one of them or a different one. If it's one of them, I feel like Yamato will be able to handle them pretty well, judging by how the interaction went before. But if it's a different one, it might be more of an even match, or maybe Yamato's weaker.
I think it's possible it's page one.
You think it might be page one again?
Oh, not page one. Who's Who, excuse me. Because who's super ambitious, just like Sasaki, but we've been shown that recently Sasaki was taken out by Denjiro.
Right, exactly. I think that Who's Who is the one that I would like it to be, and it would be a cool fight. And we already know that Who's Who is probably either the strongest or second strongest of the Toby Roppo. I think it's between him and X Drake.
Oh, I would definitely agree with you. I would like to see that fight too. But there still is the bounty on Yamato's head, and especially in front of Kaido. Somebody's definitely going to want to challenge a Calamity, an All-Star, whatever you want to call him.
So I wanna talk about Yamato's shackles. So we know that they're the same kind of shackles that they have in the prison, and like that Queen was guarding. But I'm not sure if they're Seastone cuffs or not. So we know that if Yamato is a devil fruit user, it would tremendously weaken him into like not being as strong because he's touching Seastone cuffs. But we also know that Luffy was training with Seastone cuffs on and getting kind of strong with them, even though his power is much more diminished. He's stronger because he trained with him on. I'm starting to think that Yamato doesn't have a devil fruit, and the biggest reason I think that is the way that his Thunder Bagua took out Ulti, as well as the fact that his biggest idol is Odin, who also did not have a devil fruit. So I'm leaning towards Yamato not being a devil fruit user.
I could totally understand the reasoning behind that too, and I would agree that it's very alluring. But we know that Kaido, his whole shtick is devil fruit. We've seen shackles that are Seastone, we've seen shackles that are explosive. I don't think we've ever seen both. However, it would be fitting if, for instance, like Naruto reference, Rock Lee, Yamato has been training with this limiter for the past 20 years, and Yamato was able to get this strong while, debuffed this whole time. So the moment, just like Goku, Yamato takes off the weights, that's when the fight really begins.
Yeah, that would be a cool reveal for Yamato, or like just getting a power boost. I'm still leaning towards that not happening and it just being explosive, and that's it. But either way, it's gonna be cool no matter what happens. I think we can agree on that.
I totally agree. What I also find very interesting is that primarily the world government uses the explosive cuff technology. So there has to be some trade with the world government through the Beast Pirates for them to acquire these shackles in the first place.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe Denjiro through his black market, because we know that Cypher CP0 has, I forgot her name, but she's basically the queen of the underworld. So like through that, the world government.
Stussy.
Yeah, Stussy. So between Stussy and Denjiro, they could potentially smuggle in world government stuff to Wano. All right, let's move on. Do you want to talk about a potential Seastone katana in Wano?
Yeah, I was just thinking that with so many devil fruit users in the series, and with Wano being the primary place in which Seastone is mined and forged, I think it would be very fitting if there was a Seastone katana. I wouldn't be surprised if Ame no Habakiri was made of
Ooh.
Seastone. That's the blade that's supposed to kill the Orochi.
Interesting. Yeah, that would be really cool. So I guess my biggest thought around this is what kind of benefit would a sea stone katana have in battle? And I was thinking, like, maybe fighting against a Logia user. So, for instance, let's say Marco Phoenix. Normally, you can only hit him with Haki, so you'd have to have a Haki forged blade to be able to cut him. Maybe you don't need to have Haki if you have a sea stone blade.
That's exactly how I see it too, and it's almost similar to Blackbeard's powers too. So let's just put it this way. So a Logia user, the way that it works is you can turn your body into your element, and like Aokiji and Marineford, you could be so adept with your fruit and observation haki that you could open up openings in your body by turning it into your element and allow attacks to pass through you. When with haki, that intangibility doesn't work. However, with Seastone, like Blackbeard's fruit, it actually nullifies your devil fruit completely. So if you're intangible, it doesn't matter. You physically cannot manifest your body as your element. You just get sliced through with the blade.
Imagine if someone wielded a sea stone katana against Beige while he's in his castle form, like, or fortress form thing. Imagine just tapping him with the sword, and then he kind of transforms back into a human, and everybody that's inside him is not inside him anymore, and he's like, WTF, mate, and he gets a really serious wound from the katana.
Yeah, it's like a complete hard counter to like every devil fruit, like the Yami Yami no Mi is.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I would love to see a sea stone katana. It would be a fitting place in Wano for it to happen, so totally down. Okay, I guess we have our final topic for the day, which is Kaido said that the Shichibukai were disbanded, and the reason for it was because the Marines probably have a force that can rival the Yonko, and because of that, him and Big Mom are trying to take action together, allied, so that they have more power, just in case the Marines actually have something that strong. So, I guess what are the potential forces that can rival the Yonko? The first thought that comes to my head is sword, and I overall don't think that this is the one that the Marines have in plan, because most of the Marines don't know about it. Like, I doubt the Gorosei know about sword, so I'm not thinking it's going to be sword. And even if it was, I doubt that they could rival the Yonko right now. Like, let's be real. But yeah, what other ideas do you think you have for that?
Ooh, so I was thinking, so it would have to be something involving Vegapunk, because we saw with like the PXs, they're trying to create that new fighting force. So I would think either Vegapunk has perfected the PXs, or I just had the thought that maybe they're going to come out with a new type of ship, like something bigger than a battleship, maybe a dreadnought, or even furthermore, how advantageous would it be to the Marines if they had something along the lines of air support or an aircraft carrier? As far as we know, there's no flying machines in the One Piece
Actually, there
world.
is.
However,
We've seen an L ship.
oh yeah, we've seen the Maxim, and we've seen that what's his name, the bird. We've seen that Morgan's has like the balloon that's carried by the birds. However, if you had something that was even akin to like a biplane, that instead of just moving more vertically was adept at also moving horizontally, it would make something like the Red Line and the Grand Line and the New World so trivial if the Marines can literally be everywhere at once.
So another idea is, and it's kind of along the same lines, is we know that Eam has taken over and sitting on the throne of kings. So he's kind of gonna start playing some of his cards, and he might have some ancient technology. So perhaps he has an ancient weapon. Like maybe the world government has an ancient weapon under their control already. We know that there's three. Or perhaps he has ancient technology from the Void Century or before. We know that there's celestial races and like from in the moon, like we know that there's a moon race. We know that there's celestial dragons. So maybe he has kind of like ancient technology, flying ships from that ancient race or something like that up his sleeve that he'll use to combat the Yonko.
Furthermore, what if Eam gave this technology to be expanded upon to Vegapunk?
Oh, true.
So not only do you have the power of the ancient technology, which would be the capabilities of the ancient weapons, but they've now been reworked by Dr. Vegapunk to be something even more ruthless and efficient than the ancient kingdom ever could have created.
Yeah, that would be really cool actually. Just modernize the ancient technology and also just get that technology under your belt so that you can kind of use that to create more technology that's even better. And Vegapunk's the best one to do that.
Yeah, they say Vegapunk's the man that thinks like 300 years into the future or whatever it is. But even from like the Straw Hats perspective, let's say they find like an ancient weapon, if it is a thing and not a person, right? And they want to like retrofit it to make it even better than it could ever be, that would give like Robin and Frankie the chance to really work together hand in hand.
True. And we know that Frankie was trying to give Robin a ride, so he would like that.
Oh Jesus. Well, they are like besides Brooke, they're like the older members of the crew. And even since Frankie joined, they always had like that weird relationship. They both come from like outside crime families as well. So they definitely have those parallels. I'm not talking shipping, but if it happened, I wouldn't be surprised. Or maybe it just could be like upgraded pacifistas. Like, so the way that it works is it's like a triangle that's all in balance. You have the pirates, the warlords, and the Yonko. All three are supposed to be as powerful as each other and keep the others in line. But with the dissolution of the warlords, now the Yonko can be completely unchecked unless we see what the Marines are rolling out now. And it seems like the Marines, like, they don't care about the Yonko or the pirates anymore. They're so confident in whatever they have going on under the hood that they just don't even care. They're just overconfident enough just to think that they could win.
Yeah, it's really cool to think about what the Marines will have up their sleeve. Obviously, they haven't shown all of their cards yet, but they have their hands in so many different things. Like, they're definitely a corrupt organization. Not everyone, obviously, because we got Toby and Garp, but they have a lot of corruption in it, and they have their hands in a lot of pots. So they have something. They have power. Like, there's a reason that they're basically governing the entire world. Like, you can consider the Marine organization as an even larger pirate crew, more united than most pirate crews, because they basically rule most of the world, other than like certain areas where different pirates have their own territories. The Marines rule the rest of it, and like we've seen them act like thugs in the past and not better than pirates in the past. So yeah, they definitely have technology, power, manpower to rule the world, and they're gonna want to keep that rule over the world. They're not gonna let it go without a fight. They don't want anyone to find the One Piece. So yeah, they're not sitting and twiddling their thumbs and being okay with how things are right now. They want to continue this and make sure that they're still the dominant force in the world so that they can continue to have effectively oppression of different types of people that live in the One Piece world.
Yeah, they just want to continue to subjugate the world so that they could be the rulers. However, with that being said, I think the One Piece is definitely intertwined with the D's, the ancient history, the Void Century, and the ancient weapons themselves. I definitely think there's going to be at least some military power upon arriving at the One Piece that's going to cause the Straw Hats to fight the world government. But currently, as it is right now, the Straw Hats are very strong. Even with the Grand Fleet, they can't ever hope to stand up and defeat the world government just being one little ship against this whole massive world army. They're definitely going to need some military hardware in the form of a weapon to be able to fight the Marines effectively and the world government, given that the Straw Hat crew is only like 10 members.
Well, I think that's it for this week. We're on break next week, but we'll try to come out with another episode. Thank you for joining and listening to us.
Thank you for sailing with us. Hope you have a good one. Thank you and bye bye.
Bye.